Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Rebecca from Chemnitz, and I'm here tonight to unravel this ball of yarn that I kind of gave everyone a sneak peek of in in the last live stream. I think I picked this up. And since I need to unravel it, anyway, I figured I would do it on, on camera, and also, I think at the same time, I might film. I've got my other camera set up over here, and I think I might try to film a time lapse at the same time. But this has not yet been washed, so there's a chance I could turn my hands a bit red. But it also smells a lot like vinegar. And so the reason why I need to unwind it now while it is still pretty damp, it's been, I guess, a couple days since I dyed it, is that I don't want the yarn to get moldy or anything like that because, I mean, this is really thick. So it would take a really, really long time for it to dye all the way into the center. Hi, and thank you for joining me. All right, so let me find an end. And so I have no idea if this is going to bounce around, how this will bounce around in the bowl. I do have on hand a yarn bowl just in case I think that I might need something else for the unraveling. But I mean, I have a wood one upstairs, but this is a ceramic one, and I am a tiny bit concerned that I could destroy it. So the last tool that is essential for today is my PVC pipe niddy noddy. There's a video on the channel where I talk about all the pieces and the sizes that I cut them to use this, but I have a 1 foot section in the middle, so I will be making an approximately 4-foot skein with this yarn, and hopefully we will see a really, really cool gradient as I unravel it. Hi, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I hope that, yeah, as always, we're still figuring out what's going on with the webcam because it's still new to me. And so if there's any sync issues or anything, let me know and I'll see what I can do to resolve that. But I'm going to start by placing one end. I'm still on camera. The yarn in here. Well, I remind you how I dyed this yarn. Absolutely. Can't believe I didn't say more about that. All right, so this is a hand wound ball of yarn. I didn't use a ball winder. I just wound it around my hand, trying to keep it as loose as possible. So I always had 3 or 4 fingers while I was winding the yarn. And then I just put it in a pot with some Wilton's Violet food coloring and some Delphinium blue food coloring. The video for this will come out sometime in February, I believe. It'll be the episode is, still editing is in progress, so it's not quite out yet. But yeah, I've done a lot of dyeing with the pre-round cakes of yarn where the yarn is wound into a center pull ball. But the reason why this is different is because I do not have access to the center of this ball of yarn. The only way to get access to that is to completely unravel it. So in all likelihood, the yarn that's at the center could either be white or a very, very pale color. I also did something a little differently. I did not add any vinegar to the dye pot until the yarn had been in the pot for a while, because I wanted to give the dye a chance, especially the blues, to penetrate the ball as far as possible before striking to the yarn. So I am extremely curious to see how this comes out. And this little bit of blue up here is because the water level in the pot just barely hit the top of the ball of yarn. So we have a little bit less of the red binding. The reds actually did bind without vinegar, which was pretty cool. And then you can see a cool pink spot, though it's not really reading pink on there. So yeah, but I thought that was what was resting on the bottom of the pot, so I thought that was cool. Why don't you use a Swift to deball? I could. I think that I sort of personally prefer the niddy noddy because while I'm winding up, because smack myself in the face. But while I'm winding onto the Niddy Noddy, I can kind of see how the gradient progresses. And my Swift is pretty delicate. And so I think that if I was trying to wind onto that, I don't know, I might break it. So it's something that I will try at some point, just maybe not starting with wet yarn. It's also wool, it's also wood, and so I don't necessarily want it to get wet. So that's just why I prefer the Niddy Noddy to the Swift. Yes, I am very, very excited about this yarn. Okay, I'm going to start winding it, but first I am going to set up, all right, and try to see if I can get this time lapse going. But also, as always, feel free to interrupt. No, well, it's not interrupting. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I'm curious how many knots I'll get from this. I mean, I've sort of manhandled the outside of this a bit, so that's why I'm not super surprised to have one right away. A little. It'd be nice if I was going to do a live stream and not have a knot for once. But already we can see that we're getting some cool variation. Can you see? Not really. From the outside, just because there's like this blue at the top and from the pink on the bottom. So welcome to the stream. And if you haven't caught any of my live streams before, they're pretty casual. But ooh, okay. Already I have to show. Look at on the screen. It's reading a little more blue, but we've got some paler purples that are showing up already, or bluer purples, I should say. So I'm really excited. I started trying the cake dyeing originally because I saw one of these, I saw someone, I don't remember if it was a blog post or what, of someone who had done a pre-wound ball, and they got a really cool gradient. I think they used greens. So they weren't really doing any color breaking or anything specifically, but I thought that it was so cool. So I decided to do it with a pre-wound cake of yarn. And then here I am. I got some questions when I was unwinding the last one, and so I decided that, gee, I really do need to go and do a hand wound ball of yarn. But all right, I gotta show you guys because we are getting some blues start to show up. So you can already see as the yarn is wrapping around. Yeah, this is really, really cool. And so the other thing about this is, even if I was to hand wind 2 balls of yarn, there's no way I could get 2 identical colorways. The closest way I could do that would be if I wound a ball of yarn holding 2 strands of yarn at a time. There I could get 2 that are close to identical. But there's no way that I could ever hand wind 2 balls of yarn and have those be identical. But unlike some of my other, well, I guess with the yarn cakes I had to do this too. I will be washing this, not necessarily shortly, but before I go to bed, certainly. And so just so you could see, okay, so the colors aren't quite coming through, but we've got purple and sort of a magenta, and the blue is starting to be really, really bright. Oh, there you can kind of see. So I love it. One of the reasons why I decided to use delphinium blue in this mixture is that I wanted to have more purple than pink on the outside. When breaking violet, you get this really fuchsia. And so I wanted more blue in the mix, but also the delphinium blue has a little bit of yellow in it. So I was curious if we would see any real evidence of that on this ball of yarn. Was the pink, so the hot pink was the bottom of the pot. So this was what was resting on the bottom. And looks like galaxy yarn. Yeah, this is so pretty. And we've got a lot of yarn on the Nitty Knotty so far, and so we've got a lot of purple. That's really cool that the purple has penetrated so far into the ball of yarn. But I guess like there's always, you can see now the ball of yarn has like all these hot pinks. Again, it's not looking as vibrant as it is in person, but we've got pinks and blues, and we're slowly, we're reducing the amount of the dark purple slowly. Ooh, what do you think this yarn should turn into? With asymmetric yarns, I often think shawls or hats, but 100 grams, so 220 yards of worsted weight yarn isn't quite enough for any kind of shawl or scarf. So, but yeah, I'll show off. There we go. Our pretty, this is just gorgeous. Sometimes there's some yarns that I dye that I think are so beautiful that I really just kind of want to hang up and put them on my wall. But yeah, so if you guys have any recommendations of what this should turn into, I'd love to hear them. Because I might not be able to part with this one. I am loving this so much. The cake dyeing is a lot of fun as well, because you get some of the darkest color will carry all the way through to the center. So this one, maybe this should become 220 yards just isn't a lot. So maybe I need to do this with doubling the amount of yarn so I can do like a cowl or something. Maybe you're tempted to dye yarn this way next. You should do it. Sometimes when you're trying to wind wet yarn, it can be really annoying and splash around. That's why I like to wait a few days before. I know it'll still be wet towards the center, but I'm not getting any splash back right now. So that's nice. But can you see, yeah, the transition of the colors? Oh, this is so pretty. Ooh, fingerless mittens would be cool. But again, when we've got these asymmetric yarns, doing something where you need two can be fun if you don't mind, your colorway going up, like down one sock and up the other. If you don't care about the pieces matching, then that works. Oh, I could combine it with another skein of yarn and mix it to do, oops. Let's see, now we're getting mostly blue at the center, but there's still a bit of pink from like the bottom of the pot and whatnot. But I could maybe dye a semi-solid Wilton's Violet yarn and then mix them together and do some kind of lacy stripes. Because 440 yards would be enough for a cowl or something. But you guys, look how pretty that is. Ooh, wizard mitts. That's not one I don't know. Make wall art out of it. Yeah, I think that if I could, I would just cover my walls in skeins of yarn. But the one downside to that would be that eventually they would fade because of like access to sunlight. My winter accessories that I've made with food coloring dyed yarn have stayed really, really vibrant for years. But that's because when I'm not wearing them, they're in the closet or something. If I were to leave them on my windowsill, then you might see some fading. So that's why as wall art, permanent wall art, that might not be the best. But all right, it looks like there's still some tonal variation in here. But it looks like I got blue to penetrate almost all the way to the center, which I think is awesome. I was really unsure how far it would penetrate. And I know, and I'll have to do a test, but if I was going to do this with Stroll or maybe even the superwash wool of the Andes yarn, I don't know if the color would penetrate all the way to the center of the ball. Just because if the colors bind if the food coloring pouring colors bind super fast to the yarn, then you can't get anything to go all the way to the center. So that is something to consider when you're choosing your yarn type. But clearly this is amazing enough that I'm gonna need to do this exact test with superwash yarn as well, to see, to see if I can get the dye to penetrate. But I think that the other thing that I did that worked in my favor was starting with the no vinegar in the pot. I think helped me a lot. But this actually is reasonably balanced too. The way that it's wound, I mean, maybe there's a bit more in the blue sections, but maybe I do need to make myself like a beret or something that would use a little more yardage than any other kind of hat. Or I really could use like some kind of nice long cowl or something. It's been a while since I've made something like that for myself. But I don't really see much evidence of the yellow. So when you do delphinium blue, you get the magenta, and then it kind of goes to almost, it's, maybe if I compare this to some of my other broken violet, I'll notice the difference a bit more. You did a striped boomerang shawl with natural and striped hand spun. With 220 or 440? Yeah, I think that this is just stunning. This is a very, very Rebecca colorway. This is a very Chemnitz colorway, like a Rebecca signature. I think that this is just loads and loads and loads of fun. And, you know, a really easy way to get an asymmetric yarn. This doesn't require, I mean, obviously I'm using this Nitty Notty that I made at home, but this didn't require any special equipment to make it. I didn't need to have a ball winder. You could unwind it onto the back of a chair or something if you didn't have a Nitty Notty or a Swift. You didn't need a knitting machine to make a sock blank to do the gradient. So this gradient is not, you know, a continuous subtle gradient because you've got variation in the color, especially in the middle section where you have patches of pink, blue, and purple. But if you want to explore dyeing gradients, this is a great way for you to try it at home. A boom sling cowl with black as an alternating color. That's another one I guess I'll have to look up. Oh, 220 of each. Okay. Yes. No, I've done a lot of, I keep very detailed track of my yardage. I will weigh my yarn before and after to know exactly how much I used in a project. Because not only do I think that that helps other people looking for stuff, but that way I know, and then I can estimate with other projects how much, if I think the yardage estimates are good or not. But yeah, with my hand spun, there's a cowl pattern that I'll need to look. There's one that I've been in love with for a really long time, and I haven't done it because I wanted to do it with some hand spun, but I just never had quite enough yardage to get it the way that I wanted. And I don't think it would necessarily be good for stripes. But maybe I could do it in some kind of cool, irregular striped way that would be really fun and take advantage of the gradient. But I'll have to see. Yeah, so some of this like 400 to 500 yard projects have been the bane of my existence when I end up with a lot of 380 yards skeins of yarn that I spin. You're planning to do a cake tonight? Yeah, the waiting to add the vinegar, that's something that I first did. So with the other cake, and I think I haven't done cakes of yarn with 100% with worsted weight wool until recently. My first cake dyeing was with pallet yarn, which is the same fiber type. It's just a 2-ply fingering weight yarn, so it's a bit different. Actually, some of my first cake dyed yarns are up here. So So I did an experiment on the channel a long time ago about one cake of yarn that I wound really tightly and then one that I wound really loosely. And these are the color differences that I got. There was a lot more color and a lot more penetration in the cake of yarn that I wound really loose versus the one that I wound tightly. And so this is a pair that someday will become a shawl of mine that I've just been holding on to until the right the right moment. But so the cake that I did recently that I had wound on one of the live streams, I had just done some snow dyeing and I had a lot of runoff. And I was like, well, this has a mixture of a lot of colors. It might break cool. I'll throw a cake of yarn into the pot and see what happens. But I didn't add any vinegar at the beginning because there had been vinegar in the yarn. And so I'm like, there's probably some amount of acid in the runoff. So let's just see if there's enough, like how little acid you need to maybe clear the pot. And so there wasn't quite, enough. I had to add some. But that meant that I think I got really good color penetration. And clearly here, so this is non-superwash 100% wool, I got color penetration on both of them. It's just really pale in the one that's wound tighter than the one that's wound looser. So if you wanted to try to get more, maybe some white left in it, and this clearly has no white left at all, then you could add some more vinegar at the beginning. You could wind it really, really tight in the center and then looser towards the outside. So there's some ways that you could play around with it. You remember that experiment? Yeah, that was one of my favorites. So you don't have any social media accounts to share pictures with me. I can try to message you my email address after this. I'm trying to think of, my email address might actually be on my website, www.chemnits.com. I think that there might be a contact me subheading on the side. I'm trying to think of the other ways. If you're on Ravelry, I'm Chemnits blog on Ravelry. People also share pictures with me. I guess you said you didn't have any social media accounts. People still share pictures with me on Twitter. I'm at Chemnits blog. They share them with me on Instagram. I'm at Chemnits. And there's the Chemnits Facebook page, facebook.com/Chemnits. And I get a lot of private messages there. But if you don't have a social media account, I guess you probably can't message me there. I'd love to see the yarn that you're hand spinning. So how tight is the ball made? On the black and yellow. What one was black and yellow? So this ball I did pretty loosely. And as I was winding the ball, I kept like a bunch of fingers in between so that way I wouldn't pull it too tight. The cake of yarn that I did with the greens recently, those had, I tried to wind it pretty loosely because I didn't want to do it too tight. And I've had some that with the stroll where the dye struck so fast that it would be really, really cool for, the outside tip of a shawl or something, but the inside just had very little color variation. Yeah, if you're on Ravelry, then you can send me pictures or links to project pages and stuff through Ravelry. And I'm bad at, I do have a group on Ravelry. I'm bad at checking that. But if you send me a direct message on Ravelry, I get those forwarded to my email. So I always see those. But I can't get over. So with cake dyeing, I can sort of like peek in the center. You can kind of pull it aside and see what there is. And so I knew that there was some bright blue, but I couldn't really pull this ball of yarn apart and get a sense of what was in the center in the same way that I could kind of like sneak a peek in some of the cake dyeing. The yarn cake dyeing is also really fun to do with Easter egg dye tablets because you can wind the cake of yarn and then insert the dye tablets into the center. And so then it's really cool when you unravel it and you see the like splotches of color. That was a really, really fun one. You have an off-topic question, but you bought a tulip kit for dyeing cotton yarn. Can you add vinegar to the dyes or so I can dye wool with it? I haven't bothered to add any vinegar to the tulip dyes when I dye wool with them. I don't think it would hurt anything to do it, but I think that the type of dye that's in the tie-dye kit is not an acid dye, so that's why you don't need to add the vinegar to it. I don't think it would necessarily hurt. I have an experiment I want to do with the tulip dyes coming up where I want to try adding heat to the equation. So I plan to dye 3 skeins of yarn. One that I'll hand paint, very similar colorways. One I'll put in the plastic bag and wait 24 hours. And then the other 2 I will heat. I'll probably steam them on the stovetop. One of them, after I steam it, I'll set it aside to wait 24 hours to wash. And then the other one I will wash as soon as it cools to get a sense of whether or not heat helps with the absorption of the tie-dye to the yarns. And so that's something that I hope to do, in the next few weeks. My poor one, almost 2-year-old had some sick days this week. And so with his attitude has been perfectly normal. So it's just some rogue fever that meant I've had to keep him home. So that's kind of delayed some of the dyeing projects I had. But today I also realized that I think I have 9 different videos in various stages of filming. And so I have to do some editing anyway. Yeah, I have dyed several. Have I used the tulip dyes to dye wool? Yes. There's actually a playlist on the account, and let me see if I can find it. There's a playlist that is tie-dye with chemnits, and so I'll see if I can find that right now. Oh, you could have sworn that I added vinegar. No, I don't believe I have ever added vinegar to the tulip dye. I think because one of the first tulip kits I had, so the first tulip kit I ever had, I was given from some promotion with All Free Knitting because they wanted me to do some tutorials dyeing yarn. So I used it and I dyed cotton yarn. But then in the booklet, it said it could dye cotton, but it also mentioned wool. And so that piqued my interest. And so I decided to test it on some wool yarn that I had. I knit a square blank and I actually twisted it up and tie-dyed it. Let's see. So here is the playlist, tie-dye with chemnits. So the first videos on it are t-shirt tie-dyeing videos. I'm going to drop the link in right now because I think I'm the only one that can drop links into the chat. So some of the first pictures in there are actually tie-dyeing of t-shirts, but then some of the yarns I think are towards the end of the playlist. Oh, well, thank you so much for tuning in and asking questions and joining in. I love experimenting with color and techniques and trying new things so that way you guys could see that it really is not that hard. And also that it's okay to take some risks with this, because even in the last episode of Dye Pot Weekly, I used the tulip kit on some roving and the colors came out way paler than I expected. And I think maybe because ultimately there wasn't that much dye left. The dye itself was pretty fresh. The colors were gorgeous though. So unless you're trying to dye something with a specific project in mind, then maybe you want to do some tests before you dye a more expensive yarn or something like that. But ultimately, taking risks sometimes allows you to get something really, really beautiful. And even when things don't end up coming out the way you expect, it can still be really, really exciting. And so that's kind of my philosophy. But then, you guys ask questions, and that's why I want to do the heat test with the tulip kits. And so that's something that I'm really excited to do. I love it when I can vary conditions and make it feel like a little science experiment. That's really fun for me. Huh. So I guess another website said to use both vinegar and heat with fiber reactive dye because it's made for soda ash, and it has the basic pH. I haven't tested them with the pH paper. Again, the first kit I had mentioned wool and didn't suggest adding any vinegar. I believe that I saw on the RIT website today that if you're going to heat, add like a certain amount of heat with the RIT dyes, that you don't need to add salt or vinegar, which, I mean, I added vinegar in the experiment I did with that the other day. So I don't think that the vinegar will necessarily hurt anything. But yeah, I think not being focused on a particular outcome can make the experiments more enjoyable. I mean, there's times like where things are spectacular, underwhelming failures, like the attempt to dye yarn with Coke Zero. I knew it probably wasn't going to work, but I got a number of questions about it, and so I was like, hey, I should just give this a shot. I do still need to over dye that yarn, so maybe that's a good candidate for some cake dyeing or something, because it's like barely stained brown. So yes, when I used the RIT liquid dye in the live stream, what's today, Thursday, so the live stream yesterday, I did add some vinegar to the pot. I forget if it was maybe three generous tablespoons or so. With the RIT dye, it does say, it's funny, a lot of the bottles I have different amounts of instructions. And so I found like some of the first ones I used didn't necessarily say like how much. The first bottle I had said add vinegar for wool and add salt for cotton. And I was like, well, how much vinegar? How much salt? And I think it recommends like half a cup of vinegar per some amount of fiber, which just seemed like too much. So I did a couple tablespoons, and the yarns are beautiful that I did in the live stream. The roving might take a while to dry, but I will film a recap of the yarns. And they washed really well. There were, I think with the dip dyed yarn at the end, I had to do maybe 5 or 6 total rinses. And the roving took a little more, but that's because the dye hadn't exhausted yet. But so, yeah, it was a breeze. So, did I use any heat? With the RIT dyes, I did. I did some low immersion dyeing on the stovetop, so I had it on low heat the whole time. Mica powders. Huh, yeah, I think that some of that, so I haven't tried any of, there's metallic food colorings and stuff and edible glitter. I haven't tried any of those because I see that as more making a mess. I don't think there's anything specific about that would bind to the fiber and be permanent. I might be willing to, I'm willing to do tests with some of the metallic sprays and whatnot at some point. But I have a feeling that it would not, it would probably come out in a wash or something like that. But hey, anything is always worth a try. Well, I guess I do have some limits. I refuse to try to dye yarn with yogurt. Just because I think dairy is something that's more of the level that I avoid. So I do have limits. Have I ever tried using hair dye? No, and that is actually something that is on my list to try at some point. Although I do have concerns because hair dye, a lot of hair dyes will come out after a certain number of washes. So I don't know. I mean, there's no question that hair dye would color yarn. It's just, can I wash it enough so that way it won't come off on my hands or something? That I don't know. So I am hesitant but willing to try it at some point. Yeah, I have some other like fun. I have a lot of fun with the food coloring stuff, and I'm so excited to play around with the RIT dyes. But I don't think anything can really replace the joy of finding a new type of food coloring. The color mist sprays are just incredible. And sprinkles are just amazing for adding specks. And so you could probably make your own kinds of sprinkles using the the like the Jacquard acid dyes somehow. But with the powders, like there's more risk for inhaling things. But the Jacquard acid dyes actually say on all the containers that once they're in liquid form, it's safe to use with kids. So at some point, Lucas can join me in using the Jacquard dyes because, you know, I would feel comfortable with Lucas doing it. Ryder, not so much yet, just because you don't want like them to try to eat anything with it. But I'm just really excited to explore new things. But the sprinkles with the food coloring is one of my favorite. Oh, I don't even have it back there. The sprinkles is one of my favorite things ever. No, but all right, spoilers coming. Since it was asked if I've tried the natural food colorings, I did pick some up. Now, so I'm not optimistic about the red color. The red in here comes from beet juice. And so I'm not expecting that to give a permanent red. I'm expecting that to turn brown. The yellow is from turmeric though. And so that potentially could actually be reasonable for adding yellow to yarn. And then I'm not sure what the blue trehalose, yeah, I don't know much about what makes the blue, but we'll have to, yeah, see. So this is in the queue at some point. Oh my goodness. So I was expecting droppers, but it comes in these are powders. They're like, I think they're powders. They're like these resealable little packages. So anyway, I also have a Tulip Naturals kit that I think has, and so that I know will work well on wool and cotton. So it has, you know, the yellow I think is one of the yellow spices. The blue is indigo, and I forget what of the red items it is. But so I'm excited to play around with that as well. And I do have a big indigo kit that I'm really excited to do at some point. It's just the weather got too cold for me to do it outside because that's going to stain everything. So I really want to do that outside. Some of the direct hair dyes and some white acrylic yarn. I have no idea how well hair dyes would work on acrylic, but again, anything is worth a try. I mean, I tried the liquid RIT dyes that are meant for natural fibers on the 100% acrylic yarn, and the colors didn't, you know, match up with what's said on the bottles, and they were definitely pastel, but you can get some color in acrylic yarns from the liquid RIT dyes. Wait, what's the black thing behind me? Oh, this? This is a belt. And then this, oh gosh, this is heavy. This is my horseshoe pumpkin I bought at a craft fair. My family, we're really into pumpkins and penguins. And so, yeah. So I think that those, yeah, are the two black things. And then, of course, we've got Lego BB-8 back there. R2-D2 is upstairs. We have both of the droids accounted for, don't worry. So another question. I don't really want to use vinegar because you don't want the smell to linger in your apartment, but would like to try citric acid. I think that it really doesn't make much of a difference which you use. I don't have a recommendation on how much citric acid to use per, like, you know, like if I do 2 tablespoons of vinegar, how much citric acid would that be? I haven't done any equivalency tests yet. But whenever I dye with Kool-Aid, I don't add any vinegar. The citric acid that is in the Kool-Aid packet is enough to dye the yarn. So that's something so really I have technically dyed with citric acid a lot. But yeah, and you can get it really, really cheap from, and probably cheaper from like Dharma Trading or a dye supplier than from a food based supplier, but I mean, I like making fizzy bath balls. So I have a lot of citric acid in my house. I just haven't used it for yarn just because the vinegar is there. Yeah, this guy needs washing. It smells very vinegary, but the smell of acetic acid doesn't really bother me at all. Yeah, it is horseshoes. They welded them together. Yeah, so that's really funny. Yeah, we've had snow days and sick days. The tree, I mean, it's an artificial tree, which is the other reason why it can still be up. But yeah, I don't think it actually will be that hard to take it down this year. But I forget if this is our 8th Christmas with it, and so it might be nearing the end of its lifespan because it's starting to get ricketier and ricketier as we set it up. You have your first wool dyeing experiments in the steamer right now. Yay! Woohoo! That's awesome. Okay, let's see if I missed the questions. Yeah, so I think a lot of the yellow spices like turmeric and like some of these, a lot of those spices that are really yellow and that stain really badly. If it's something that will stain your clothing, it's probably a good candidate for dyeing yarn. And so I think that like historically, yellows and browns were really, really easy to achieve. There's a lot of plants and oranges that can get you in that shade. It's the truer reds, purples, and blues that were a lot harder to get. So let's see. Yeah, that was cool. Manic Panic hair dye works on acrylic yarn. Oh, okay, that's where, see, I'm now going backwards to the comments. So that's where the trying the hair dye on acrylic came up. Yeah, what else do I have that I haven't showcased yet? I have some candy dyes, which are more oil-based. I haven't played around with those yet. I have some powdered food coloring that I ordered. I did show that off on a live stream. I have some tulip tie-dye pens, which I thought could be really cool for maybe adding. I mean, it would not necessarily be fast, but maybe you could add some cool specs to some cotton yarns. And yeah, a lot of stuff. It'll stain and never come. You're thinking about crocheting a blank to dye rather than a knit blank. I have not tried a crochet blank, but that is also something that is on my list. I think that you could get some really, really cool, if not speckling, but like tonal. Because if you notice when I like unravel the knit blanks, you see like it's darker, and then you get these. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. When you unravel the knit blanks, you see that you get these like darker and lighter sections based on where on the stitch it was located. With a crochet stitch, you have a lot that's exposed, but also since it's kind of wrapped, well, especially if you're doing like double crochet or something, I think it could be really cool. And you could get some really fun patterns that have a little even more variation than the knit patterns. Because then, I don't know, I think it could be really, really cool is the short answer. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, any food grade citric acid will definitely work for a dyeing yarn. And it doesn't, but as I said, it doesn't have to be food grade necessarily. I think that when I bought a pound of citric acid from Dharma Trading, when I was ordering a bunch of my other dyes, that was much cheaper than the stuff that I got from Amazon. But I've ordered, I think, a Spice World brand citric acid that I've been happy with. I've used it in a lot of the like fizzy bath balls that I've made over the years. Oh, hi, no worries. You can, actually, I think now, I don't know how far back you can go in the live stream, but I think now that there's that I'm using the webcam, and so this streaming software, you can actually sort of DVR the stream, so you might be able to pause and like go back in time, or then come, if you join late, then skip ahead to like what's real. But I think that when I stop the stream, since it takes so longer for the replay to come up, I think that it might cut you off. I thought that the stream cut off before I had intended last time because I watched like the last like 30 seconds on my computer, but then it stopped just like a bit short and I was confused, but maybe because it was on a bit of a delay, that's why that happened. Of all the dyes I've used so far, which ones were the ones you're most pleased with? Well, Wilton's Violet I think is my favorite. I am sort of obsessed with color breaking because I love the idea that you mix one pot and you can get multiple colors out of it. And I really enjoy, I think my favorite yarn ever, and okay, it says something that my china cabinet is full of yarn. My whole house is full of yarn. Okay, so this is my favorite yarn ever. This is Stroll Fingering, and I made these little specks with Wilton's Violet, and they broke into magenta and a bright blue. And I am obsessed with this, and I want to play, I intend to play around with this more in the future. But, so that, like, this technique of breaking Wilton's Violet is my absolute favorite technique ever. But I am so excited to be able to get grays. So the Rit dyes aren't my favorite because I don't like the amount of washing that comes with them. But like a true gray is not something that you can really do with food coloring. Because even the black on yarn it's hard. Once I've gotten something close to like a true black versus just like a dark brown or maroon with food coloring. And so, yeah, the ability to actually get a gray color is really exciting for me. And so I've got gray, like I bought gray with the jacquard and I have gray in the Rit. And so those are something that just is awesome. I am really excited to play around with colors that don't necessarily break. To the idea of getting a gradient of purple from dip dyeing or using a blank and getting like a dark to pale purple is also something that excites me because that's something that's really, really hard to do with food coloring. Yes, I think this one was with a fork. What is rescanning? Is it winding up from a hank? So let's see if do I have a good example? Okay, so here's something that I could do as a sneak peek. So this is some yarn that I dyed. And so this has not been reskeined. So the colors are on the skein exactly as they were formed. Whereas since this one from cake dyeing, I had to reskein it. And so the colors kind of move around a bit. So they're redistributed a bit. So when you reskein, if I was going to reskein this yarn, it might end up looking a lot more like this, where you see more distribution of the colors throughout the skein and less big white patches. It would look like a mixture of, or maybe it would look, I mean, this one has not been reskeined, but you would see the colors more distributed throughout the yarn. Does yellow food coloring break like the violet? No. So yellow food coloring okay. So what I haven't tried is orange. A lot of orange food coloring is one of the, I don't remember if it's yellow 5 or yellow 6. I forget which the molecule is. And so it's really, really concentrated yellow. So it's possible that dip dyeing starting with a lot of that dye, you could go from an orange to a yellow, but that isn't really breaking. It's just that when you have a lot of yellow, it starts to look more orange than yellow. I do have an experiment coming up in the next couple of weeks where I looked at breaking orange again, and I mixed. I have the Wilton Color Right system has a red or a pink that is just red number 3, and then there's a red that is only red number 40. So using those, I mixed 2 different oranges to see if I could get something that we would say, hey, that's breaking. And, well, I'll let you see, and then you can tell me what you think about that experiment. wait, I missed. Oh, see, Julia, let me see. I'll go back and find that comment. Um, wait, at 7:12. Oh, I can't. It won't let me search that. Julia, what was your question? Oh, maybe it was 8:12. Can you pre-soak with vinegar water, add your yarn to a steamer basket, and then add sprinkles and steam it? Yes, definitely. So when I've been dyeing yarn with the sprinkles, and when I hand paint yarn in general, what I do is I will pre-soak the yarn in a vinegar solution. And that's what I did here as well. I pre-soaked the yarn in vinegar and then I added the dye. So with all the sprinkle ones I've done, I have pre-soaked the yarn in the vinegar dye bath and then added the sprinkles and then added it. I think this one I did in a steamer basket, but sometimes I'll wrap them up and put them in the microwave as well. So a lot of crochet blanks with sock blank artist Ravelry group. Ooh, I'll need to check out the sock blank artist Ravelry group. On Etsy, I've seen some stunning blanks of people that are artists. It puts some of my graffiti to shame. Although my yarns are beautiful, but I can't really draw. Be careful when using the Rit Black when dyeing 100% wool. You did 5 skeins for a sweater and it's all solid black. It has spots of black, brown, gray, and purple. Yeah, I'm sure. I used something recently that then there was a bit of a brown that surprised me. But I'm sure that black is hard with whatever dye you're using. Like tulip tie-dye blacks break a bit. Actually, I think the teal broke as well, which surprised me of that one. So a lot. If you look at the Dharma fiber reactive dye section, I think they have 5 different blacks. And so one of them breaks with a little bit of blue, one breaks a little differently, and then they have one, I think, that doesn't really break. So you can use you'll need to add soda ash. It's not a one-step kit like the tulip kits, but you could get fiber reactive dyes from Dharma, the Dharma brand fiber reactive dyes, and if you wanted to get something that is a true black. Does Rit have or any dyes that glow in the dark? I know that there are that. So I don't know if Jacquard has any that glow. I don't know if there's any that glow in the dark, but there are some that will. Okay, now I need to look up. I'm looking into this because there's some that. What do they say they do? I have some that I don't remember if it said that. This is why I'm like hesitating because I don't remember if it said that if they fluoresce. So this is what I'm checking. Let's see if it'll say. Why can I not see? Description. I'll have to take a closer look. There was something that I have some that I'm just skimming quickly. What is the purple pop? Yeah, okay, so there are some fluorescent, apparently, colors with the Dharma acid dyes. So, what I don't know is if it's like a true, like you shine light on it and it'll fluoresce, kind of glow in the dark for real, because that's really cool, or if it's like it'll pop under a black light kind of thing. So, okay. See, there we go. Yeah, that's what I was just checking. So I did get the purple, the Dharma. I have 3 colors from Dharma. I think I got like sage green, avocado, and purple pop because these are ones that people told me will break. I'm not sure if any of I know some Jacquard acid dyes probably break as well. I just didn't have any like on my list already, so I don't know if any of the ones that I have will break or not. Oh, okay, so it's just popping under a black light, not Yeah, so well, I don't have a black light, but we'll see when I try some of those colors. We'll have to I'll maybe have to buy one so we can test it out. Um, uh, yeah, but I have found, so Vivian, we were talking about the yellow food coloring breaking. I've done, in some of the live streams, we've done these diathons, and some greens will break. It depends on what they're made of. The Kelly green actually kind of breaks, and you get more of a teal or green, and you get a little more of a teal at the end. And so that one was really pretty. And the teal also kind of breaks. You start off with the teal color and it gets more blue. Because I think if I was going to rank, like, red number 3 binds the fastest, blue binds the slowest, and then yellow is somewhere in the middle and is somewhat, like, if you go to, like, since it's in the middle, like, red 40 binds pretty slowly, but you can break it with blue if you're patient enough. But if you wait too long, then you end up with not a lot of color on the other side. So the reason why I love red number 3 is because it binds so quickly that you can still have a vibrant color with this blue on the inside. So the breaking is really dramatic. And so these purples will give the most dramatic examples of color breaking. Yeah, the color rate system, it's funny. Some of the colors are actually really viscous. So when you put a drop, I guess some of my videos come out when you put a drop in water to dilute it and mix the color, it just like kind of sinks like a lead ball to the bottom. So it's different than, say, McCormick's liquid food coloring, which are really liquid. I don't know what's in there that makes it a bit more viscous than water, but they're really cool. I'm not quite sure 100% how much more potent they are than other liquid food drops, but I was really excited to have 3 different red options. I just wish that they had at least 2 different blue options. So for reds, they have crimson, red, pink, and burgundy, I think. So that's 4 reds out of 8 colors. And then oh wait, am I wrong? Maybe there's only 3. Maybe just crimson, red, and pink. And then there's orange, yellow, blue, brown, and black. So you can mix your own purple, but I think that in terms of blue, there's 2 different blues. One this is more like McCormick's neon blue, and then there's the other blue, which I'm not as up on the numbers, which is darker. And so, yeah. Oh, can you see without using plastic wrap? Yeah. So with Julia, with this speckled yarn, I put the yarn in the steamer basket of, I think, my canning pot, and I put that directly in the pot and covered it. So I steamed it and I did not wrap it up at all. The reason why I wrap things is because I'm usually trying to keep colors from mixing with one another when I am as I'm setting the color. Because if some of these hand painted yarns, if I were to just kind of put it all together in a pot or in a bowl, then the colors might mix. So wrapping it up is in part to try to keep the colors separate and clean. Yes, but there's some things that I do, like with did I do that with the snow dyeing? Maybe. Sometimes I'll just I'll just plop the yarn in a bowl and put plastic wrap just over it, and I don't bother with the jelly roll. So would I say that the Wilton Colorite Foods coloring system is worth buying? I've been really, really happy with it. It's expensive. So when I'm not sure is quite how long it lasts compared to, say, McCormick's. So I think that the whole Colorite system for all 8 colors is like $20 maybe. But if you get a 50% off coupon to like Joann's or Michael's or something, then it suddenly becomes a lot more worth it. But the McCormick's colors, I mean, I think this was pretty expensive, but the standard McCormick's colors are maybe $4 or $5, and you don't usually have a coupon for those. So I haven't really done side by side with the length of time that they last. I do know that one of the little like jars of icing color, so a Wilton's Violet, I can probably dye with colors just about this intense, maybe 500 or 600 grams of yarn, so 5 or 6 skeins out of one vial, and maybe more. Um, and so, so that's like, but those are maybe like $2 to $3 each. So again, I did something where I was trying to get a lot of red, and so I think I used up. How many times have I used it? I've only dyed an entire skein maybe once, and I've done pieces of some others. So I'm not sure yet how long it'll last. I see. Yeah, I think that the putting the sprinkles in the steamer, the one concern might be the sprinkles falling through. But maybe if you put one piece of plastic wrap on top of the basket or something and then put it on. Yeah, I don't know. You can get them to stick to the yarn. When I did the rice, I had that. Actually, that's exactly what I did with the rice. I layered the rice on the steamer basket. I put the yarn on, and then I poured more rice on top. But ooh, that rice. That's a project I liked the results. I did not like picking the rice off of my yarn. How do I edit my videos for YouTube? Let me see if I can see what it's called. VideoPad Video Editor. I use VideoPad Video Editor. I think it was maybe $50, and I've been pretty happy with it. Yeah, there's a free version, so you can play around with that before like upgrading to the full version. But I used to use the Adobe video software because I had it on my computer, but then when I swapped computers, I wasn't going to go buy it because that was beefier than I really needed. Oh, I'm glad that you could catch me live too. Oh, you need to set an alarm to go off. Apparently there's like, you can set a reminder, but I don't know how it notifies you for the live streams. And I don't know if it's just me that gets the set a reminder option. But yeah, you tied 6 braids of roving with husband and daughter last week. Woo! That sounds awesome. Yeah, I love bringing the kids into it. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you would know that I got Ryder dyeing yarn. Let's see if I can pull up the picture. He was dyeing yarn with me yesterday. So my 1-year-old, he'll be 2 on Sunday. So he's not one for long, but he's just so sweet. And so, yeah, he's going to get his first little video on the channel, and I'm so proud. But I like filming these videos with my kids because, again, I know some people are intimidated by dyeing yarn. And they see it and they wish that they could do it, but they think it might be too hard. Well, if I can have a 4-year-old do almost everything, he even wrapped the yarn up himself last time. He just can't reach the microwave. And thankfully, the food coloring is kept high up, or else I'm afraid what I would come down to. But, if a 4-year-old can do it, then, it's something that could be trying. And I am pretty accessible. If you message me on Facebook, I usually respond as quickly as I can. And I try to respond to comments here on YouTube as well. And so if I haven't responded to a message in a while, feel free to ping me again because sometimes, life happens and I get distracted. Yeah, Kool-Aid, that's exactly what I started with Lucas, was using Kool-Aid. And yeah, he really likes playing Chemnitz. And he's a ham for the camera, which is funny because taking pictures of him is pretty hard. So maybe I should just get him to pretend that he's doing a video when I'm taking still pictures, because then he'll look and smile and be all like my little Lucas and adorable. Yeah, so we'll see how long he likes doing these things with me. I'm excited to try to teach the boys how to knit, but I think that uh, Lucas is still a few years out from that. I wish I could see what everyone else is dying. Maybe you should start a Chemnitz fan Facebook group. Yeah, I thought about starting a group over there. I have a Ravelry group, but it's harder for me since there's not a good mobile app. It's harder for me to like, and there's honestly not a ton of involvement over there anyway. So it's hard for me to like go and check that all the time. But if there's, so there is on the Chemnitz Facebook page, there is a community page. So if you go to the Facebook page down on the, actually, maybe I will show you. Down on the side, there is a community. So if you, am I not even, funny, I'm not even logged in. Okay, well, so it's not, I'm not logged in, and that's not actually the login email. But anyway, down on the, like, on the sidebar, like over here, there's a community tab. And when people post on the Chemnitz wall, that's where the pictures show up. So they show up over there, and then once I approve it, then if you go there, you can see a lot of the pictures that people have shared. I do have a Kickstarter only submission form where people are submitting pictures of the yarns that either they've spun or things that they've knit with the yarns that I've sent them. And they have 3 submissions so far. And so I'm going to wait until I get some more before I do a slideshow with them. But I'm really excited to be able to share those with you guys as well. But maybe we should, if there's a lot of interest, and maybe I'll set up a poll or something on Facebook. Maybe I'll set up like a Facebook group. So that way posts that other people make can show up higher, versus like being more interaction with me. It could be interaction with the whole community. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll work on that tonight. So I am right-handed. Lucas is left-handed. I once tried to teach my left-handed roommate how to knit, and that was hard. Like, I can do a lot of techniques, but I was also not going to YouTube to try to teach her, and if I had been, then maybe I would have been able to help her more. I was looking at a book, and so that was just hard. I learned, oh, you learned to crochet when you were 4 or 5? Lucas isn't quite, I don't think he's quite dexterous enough to deal with that, but we're still working on like holding a pencil. But he has really good spatial awareness, and he just did a Lego set that's for 6 to 12-year-olds. And I mean, Keith or I would pull out the pieces for him, and then he would look at the picture and figure out where to put them. And so that was a very proud mama moment. So I learned to knit when I was 10. Although I found on a family video that I guess I had been given my first set of knitting needles maybe for my 9th birthday or something. But so I should like find that clip and like edit it out and share it, because I got my first like knitting kit. And so that was fun. But my 5th grade teacher taught me and how to knit. And so then knitting spread across our class, and it was like a big, like, we'd knit during story time, and it was like a big cool thing to do. And then it would go up and down with my progress, and then I picked it up some more in high school and made a sweater, and then in college, and then in grad school I started Chemnitz, and the rest is history, and you guys are all here hanging out with me. Yeah, I got to take a day off class in 5th grade, and I think there was 4 of us, and everyone else was doing normal school work, and we dyed yarn. And I cannot for the life of me remember what we used to dye the yarn, but we were over dyeing. It was a yellow yarn, and I have no idea what type of dye we were using and why whatever we were doing took all day. And unfortunately, I think that the yarn was destroyed in a bit of a flood that we had at my house. The ice maker on the freezer got disconnected, and so water went everywhere while we were out of town. and I lost a lot of my old yarns and stuff. Ooh, yeah, but knitting, like, has made, like, I don't know if it's like knitting has just become like such a big, like, cool thing. I feel like over the years, or maybe it's just realizing so many other people that knit, and with Ravelry and it feeling so social. I think it'll be really cool if it's something that my kids are interested in doing. I would try teaching him to crochet, but I'm not as good of a crocheter as I am a knitter. I can do like some basic stuff, and I think that I could probably follow a chart okay, but it's not, I'm much more comfortable with knitting and the grid. With crochet, there's so many different parts of the loops, and it's a lot more freeform, which is just not as much my strong suit. Uh, hoping, hoping the UK will get back into it. Uh, but yeah, and oh, another thing I need to do is pull out my design notebook and see. I've got actually, there's this hat pattern. I designed a really, really cool cable. It's a really pretty cable that I just, and I had started the hat design, and I think I had even swatched. No, I swatched it and then realized I didn't have enough yarn of the yarn that I swatched with. So then I got new yarn for it, and then it hit a hiatus because we were moving. Um, and we moved here, like, we've been in this house 2.5 years. So that design has been on hiatus for a while. Oh gosh, I should do a spotlight on, at some point, on my 14 cable hat. That was one of my first big designs. So it's asymmetric with 14 different cables all around. And I used Post-its and literally cut and paste charts together to make that one. Um, yeah, no, I think that as soon as I think Lucas might have the patience for it, I might offer to let him try. But right now, especially I can't really knit while the boys are awake because I think it would get destroyed. The dog is extremely respectful of all things yarn, and like will not go near, he'll, like, if I have blocking out, unless he's really excited, he will like walk around the blocking mat. Like, he knows you don't mess with mama's lace. But but the almost 2-year-old, I don't trust him around stuff yet. You can add dye to black to make darker color. Um, yeah, so I've done some. I mean, with food coloring, it's harder because then with the black, it'll obviously break. But I've actually, like, there was something really cool that we did that was unexpected, and I need to watch some more paint color mixing videos to help with this. But in one of those, I love those, you go and you paint a picture, like the like paint and drink kind of nights. Um, and we needed to make a dark purple. And so I think that the way that we got there was, like, I think that we added, or maybe it was a darker green, but we added yellow or red or something like, I thought that, oh, we would mix this with black to make it darker, but no, instead we added something from like the other side of the color wheel, just a little bit, and that helped actually bring the color from bright to like a saturated darker color. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, but can black be over dyed and have the color changes show? I see. So I over dyed a charcoal gray yarn once. Charcoal gray roving, actually, is what I over dyed. I over dyed it with red, and it's kind of hard to see because I didn't, like, I think I was hand painting, and when I was adding the dye, I could not for the life of me tell where I had added dye because it was just all so dark. You can see hints of the red show through. And so if it's black with any kind of heathering, then you might almost get like some highlights of the color showing through. But I do have plans to over dye some black yarn. I want to spin it with some white silk thread, some natural colored silk thread, and then dye it. And so we'll see if anything happens with the black as well, or if the black bleeds onto the silk thread or what. But that has some potential to do something cool. So I'm excited for that. It'll show in the sun. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, painting. And I still, for someone that does, for someone that does a lot of stuff with color, I have a lot to learn when it comes to color mixing. Oh yeah, to make a mint green, what did I do? I mixed blue and orange. That was the instructions from the. So Wilton actually has a lot of color mixing suggestions, and so that's something that I plan to take advantage of as well. With the acid dyes, I bought primary colors. So I've got like red, blue, and yellow. And I also got two kinds of purple because I had to. I'm curious if they break. I got a pink. I got gray and black. And I forget if I got brown or not. But so, but there's so many colors that it was hard to not go like, ooh, I want this like sea foam green or this ocean blue and stuff. I was like, if I start with primaries, then in theory, like I could mix to try to get other colors. But if you don't want to try color mixing, there are a lot of colors out there that you can just go straight for the shade you wanted. So that's pretty cool. Funny that it held that comment for review. Complementary color darkens. The basics. So the kids knitting and stuff. But oh, you guys are so much fun. I finished. So this is a corral bowl. So if I were to drop it, I would be more concerned about my floor than the bowl because it's really, really strong. They say, I think on the website, you can drop it on tile, and it'll survive, but they don't recommend you doing that because you'll probably break your tile. Off topic, yes, that is a Lego BB-8. We did that over Thanksgiving. My family likes to do, rather than like a puzzle or something, we'll do a group like Lego project. And so we'll swap out taking turns with like who is building and who is sorting. And so I guess we didn't do one last year. But we've done the Death Star, we did R2-D2, we did BB-8, and I can't remember if there's another one that we did. Keith and I, we have a lot of Legos upstairs. Yes! Donna, I am actually live right now. I don't know for how much longer, but yes, you caught me, and I actually 100% am live. If you break corral, it'll shatter into shards. Oh, I don't want to ask how you know. We eventually chose these dishes because my grandfather has a set of corral dishes that I think are older than me. And so the fact that he still has pretty much a complete set after, all of us grandkids growing up and stuff, I was like, well, gee, we had some like really pretty stoneware dishes that we got when we moved in together, and we got some more for our wedding, and we're down to like 3 of the dinner plates of that or something. Bye! Have a great evening. Yeah, but you finally caught me live. I always felt bad when you'd be like, are you live? And I'm like, no, the stream ended a couple hours ago. But yeah, it's me in I guess in the pixels. Not quite in the flesh. I'm getting a little loopy. And you did catch the end of the stream, but the replay, so with the new like streaming software, the replays take a little longer to come back up, I think, but the replay will be up eventually if you missed part of the beginning. But here's the pretty that we unwound. That was my excuse to come on and hang out. And actually, okay, so these bowls, I use them a lot for dyeing, but these bowls, these shallow bowls with the big lip are my favorite. We use them for salads, and Oh yeah, I haven't eaten dinner yet. We use them for salads. We use them for pasta, for soups. I love it. Um, trying to. But I am sorry that you joined and I'm about to sign off. But this was a lot of fun. I love when you guys come and ask a lot of questions. I'm sorry if I miss anything because I love it when you guys are interactive, but then I sometimes miss things. And so when in the streams, if I don't see a question, if I miss a question or comment, don't hesitate to post again. Um, and I mean, I see you guys answering things for each other too. And so that's awesome. You guys are great and you help me love what I do and love doing these like informal sessions when I can really just interact with all of you. Uh, thank you. Oh, yeah, I have a lot of fun. And oh, right, I still need to remember to wash this because I was not going to hold this up for you guys to smell. I clearly am getting loopy talking in here to myself. But this does actually still smell strongly of vinegar. So people have asked me about that recently. And when you dye yarn with vinegar, sometimes after washing it, it does still smell for a while. But like after being like exposed, the smell goes away over time. So that's not something to worry about too much. But yeah. Oh, and so I guess some things to plug. So this yarn was Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, my workhorse, worsted weight, 100% Peruvian Highland wool. The affiliate link for this yarn is in the video description. And so, yeah, but I have most of the Knit Picks Bear yarns to play with. And, oh, maybe I should just do like I've done unboxings, but maybe I should pull out all the ones I have and actually like talk about each one as a more like planned thing and talk about how they feel and whatnot. Because I've had some questions from people about to place orders about some of the yarns. But Knit Picks is also having a 40% off book sale right now. And so there's no coupon code or anything. The prices are already marked down. So if there's a book that you've had your eyes on, you might want to check and see if they have it because like this, I think that this is like an annual book sale that they do, or maybe they do it a couple times a year, but it goes until I think the beginning of February. So you can pick up some books at a really, really good price. Yeah, no smell-o-vision. Oh, awesome! If you have smell-o-vision, then we're good. Oh, see, I like to share. Like, I have no problem making fun of myself, and so I could have just let that go, but I like having fun with all of you. Uh, and I feel like there was something else I wanted to plug, but I don't remember. I think all of you are probably subscribers, but if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do, because then you get notified when I do a live stream, or I think that there's ways that you can set what your notification settings are if you want to be notified, or if you don't want to be notified, you can also still subscribe and then not have that show up. There's, all kinds of stuff that you can do. But the video where I dyed this yarn will come out, I think sometime in February. And I've got a lot of exciting videos coming up that I can't wait for you to see. And yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, feel free as always to drop any questions on the replay. Unfortunately, this chat will not remain past tonight. But if there's a link to something that I mentioned that you want to see, just drop a question in the comments after the replay, and so that I can add that in for you guys. But thank you. That's very, very kind. I'm glad to have so much fun with you. But so let's just do one last shot of the pretty yarn. click the bell. I don't know what that means. But pretty yarn. Yes, the upcoming videos will be really good. I've got so much. Oh, and the acid dyes. So, all right, fingers crossed for me whether or not the 1-year-old will stay home tomorrow or not. But yeah, soon I will be dyeing with acid dyes, and I am so excited. So thanks again for tuning in tonight and hanging out. I am Rebecca from Chemnitz. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your fiber adventures. And don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. I am more than happy to help. And if I don't know the answer, sometimes I will test it out because your questions always make me really curious. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Good night.